Hello, dear ones, it's Alice. I am of the stars, and I have a story to tell you today, an astral story. It has a good lesson, though. I'm pretty sure it's a fable, or in my parlance, you could say it's a timeline that isn't expressing itself as an awareness timeline for the people involved. So the fable goes like this. There was once a black magician who had great charismatic appeal. And he was responsible through his psychic powers and the powers that he harnessed from the followers, the many followers that he had. So the story goes, he was responsible for the psychic death of a person who was very rich. And the reason that this death occurred was for potential financial gain for this black magician and for his followers. And then the story also goes that then later, with a desire for power in the world, to express his psychic powers as power in the world of man, he chose to use his powers to cause the psychic death of a very great soul who was in a position to guide his people in a very Christ-like way through many difficulties. My position is that all things come from God, and all things are His. All things that happen are God's, and so there's nothing that can happen, whether it might seem to us to be because of the powers of a black magician, or whether it might seem to us to be through God's blessing. All the things that happen, that we observe during our lifetime, are God's things. They are God's phenomena manifesting in the world. And so, while I don't hold with the notions that a black magician can cause terrible calamity in the world, or chaos, or change for the worse, yet a black magician does believe that. And often phenomena occur in the world that seem to support the notion of the black magician. But God's cause is always served, always. And so the end result is always God's. You see what I mean? But to get back to this fable, the reason that the black magician arranged for, quote unquote, the psychic death of this very great person in the world was that the soul qualities of this great person would have led many, many people in the direction of soul evolution and betterment, which was in contrast to the goals of the black magician, you see. That was the reason given in the astral story for this, basically for this killing. Then in addition, it was said that this black magician had caused people who had a lot of money to gravitate to him, to give their money to him, and that he had caused some physical harm to some of his followers, and that he had unorthodox tastes in sexuality, and that the followers of this black magician were concerned because, like him, they had an interest in worldly power attained through psychic powers, in worldly goals, in money, in sexuality, and in holding positions of power behind the power of people in the world. Positions of power that could not be brought to account, that would be so hidden through the power of black magic that no one would ever know harm that was done to humankind because of the manifestations of black magic that were involved. So the astral story goes, these followers had a concern that the practices in the world, in the physical world of this black magician, which were unorthodox, were not according to societal expectations, might cause them embarrassment, might cause them loss of personal power and prestige and social weight, I guess you'd say. So there was that undercurrent of concern of the followers, and then there was the apparently massive psychic ability of the black magician. So came a time after many years of consolidating his position of power in the world that this black magician was a little older, and his health perhaps was not quite as good as before. And there came a time on a public occasion when it seemed to his followers that he was about to manifest this tendency towards sexual behavior that was considered socially unacceptable. Now, he had taught his followers the power of psychic heart attack, something I've discussed in other blogs. He had taught them that, and that was one way, through threat of that or through actually carrying out that, that was how they had amassed or a financial position in the world. And so his followers understood how to, in those days, no longer supported on New Earth today, but in those days, long, long ago, they knew how to sit together and cause a psychic heart attack. Since they all were sitting, and since they were all concerned about the social acceptability of the behavior they felt was about to take place, they caused the black magician to have a heart attack through psychic means. And he fell dead right there. But at the moment of his passing, so the fable goes, he said to his followers, "I will see you all in hell." For he knew what had happened. He understood. And his soul left his body in a state of desiring to seek vengeance, you see. Now, from my readings on the topic in the arcane texts, it seems to me that what happens when a black magician leaves his physical body and is unable to walk back into another physical body is that the astral form of the black magician, which has become very coarse, the matter of the astral form of the black magician has become very, very coarse and dense through the practices that he performed on earth in that incarnation and perhaps many prior incarnations. And so for this astral matter to degrade and dissolve into its atomic particles takes a very long time. And until that astral form degrades and dissipates, then the mental body is trapped inside that astral form. And when it is finally cast off, then the mental body can go on to soul learning in the higher realms. All right. So we're talking a very long time as this astral form degrades. Now, at first, when the mental body is still trapped within the astral form, if the followers continue on after the passing of the black magicker or black magician, and if they call upon him for help, they will hear telepathically from the astral plane, they will hear a voice more like reason, more like what he was once, long ago, before his passing, before his decline in health, for instance. They will hear what they feel to be that very person advising them. As they offer devotion to him, the astral form, this that's surrounded by a thick, coarse shell, will gain in vitality, and so it will become harder for this mental body and harder for the soul itself to be freed of the astral body. Finally, there comes a time when the mental body frees itself from this astral cage or prison, and what is left as the mental body ascends towards the heaven world, what is left is what is termed an astral shell or shade or ghost. This shell has an appearance of vitality. If it is walked into by, say, a negative astral entity like a demon or a devil, okay? And so it contains the soul signature voice, astral voice of the black magicker, and the soul wounding of the energy field of the emotions of the black magicker, and the intention towards utter evil of the demon that is carrying that astral shell. And yet that shell answers when the devotees of the black magicker call. So it seems for a while to be him. As time goes on, and as the astral shell continues to disintegrate, it becomes less and less so, and more become clear the qualities of the demon that is seemingly vitalizing the empty astral shell. Now, if the followers of the black magician continue to call upon him and offer devotion to him, then the demon that's in the shell will gain more and more power over them. Now let's go back to the last words of the black magician. I will see you all in hell. Yes? And so what does that mean for this group of people and followers? It means that as long as they follow and offer devotion to the black magician who has passed on, he himself, or perhaps after he leaves, the demon that finds its way into his astral shell and tricks the followers into believing it's still him, will arrange for a series of worldly events where followers are pitted in hatred against other followers. In other words, followers will be turned towards hatred against each other. This is because he, the leader of that group, feels hatred for his followers. So the followers themselves are filled with hatred. Now let's say that someone in the group feels complete devotion to this black magician. The black magician's goals are his goals. The black magician's life is his ideal and in his own life. And he may not know that he's dealing with the black magician. He may be bedazzled or by the allure of the psychic powers involved, and think that these indicate that the black magician is the most wonderful person to follow on earth. Very often this is the case. This is why people make contracts, for instance, with the demon realm. It's why they make contract with the jinn and the ifrit, or ifrit as it's sometimes called. It's why they get involved with many powerful beings that know very well how to trick humankind into contracts that are not to their own advantage. So let us say that this follower does his or her very best to follow precisely in the footsteps of the black magician, perhaps bedazzled and tricked into thinking that this would lead to soul advancement. Then the personality of the black magician will slip into the soul field of this follower who yearns to be like him. And this follower will be turned against all of the black magician's followers. So that in the same way, this follower will feel absolute hatred towards the other followers and will wish to see all of them in hell, or will already visualize them as being in hell. So here we have essentially a Cain and Abel scenario where those people, all of a kind, find themselves hating each other. Now, what is the solution to this thing? This is very difficult problem, because the people there, they are bound together out of love and admiration for a leader who wants to see them in hell. Now, you may be thinking, isn't this often the case in the third dimensional reality? Isn't it often the case that we feel great love and devotion to someone who may not have our best interests in mind? Very frequently this is found in the third dimension, is it not? So the solution that I propose for the black Magicker and his followers also applies in all the situations where we find that we've given our heart to someone who doesn't feel so much their heart in dealing with us. And it goes like this. In the case of the black magician, if you're speaking for his followers, or for any spiritual leader or any group, you're speaking about the leader of any group, you can say, may this leader be blessed with unconditional love for his followers. Then in the case of family and friends, you can say, may that person be blessed with unconditional love for me, and may I be blessed with unconditional love for them. Pretty cool, huh? Pretty easy, but not immediately apparent. God bless you all and keep you in unconditional love and peace and light and joy.